Okay, again, some of the reading that I'll be doing will be through this 52 weeks of UX design. So hopefully if you had a chance, we kind of watched a video the first day about, what is UX design and so on. And this kind of gives you an overview of what is common. The first rule of UX design: everything a designer does affects the user experience. And I think the main goal of this is that every little detail in everything that you make is very important. And I think that is kind of what this message was from this first line here. So you can read that. The second one, again, is we kind of looked at the zapatos, but ever since I was in graphic design school, we will say back in the 80s. Yeah, I know, back in the 80s, it was problem solving from day one. What are the problems that we're trying to solve? Mostly today, we're trying to solve user experience problems. How does somebody interact, right? But back, 25 years ago when I was doing graphic design, we were just doing print stuff. We didn't really have screen design too much. So, but we were still solving problems. You're trying to give information to a person and so on. So that's sort of what this talks about. And then, of course, they have their examples of good design. And so you can read that as well. And then this last one here is kind of a deliverable versus delivery. What they're trying to talk about in this reading here is that, you are not necessarily just making something and handing it off to somebody. You should be involved in the whole process. I do everything from, and I know I talked about bringing my product in my leak alert. I did test it on Friday, and I was going to bring it in, but I'm going to change the design a little bit before I have you test it. So I will have you test my product, the leak alert one. It's an app. It's basically an app. You push the buttons and stuff, but it needs some revision. Let me revise it a little bit, and then I'll bring it in for you to test. But again, I am involved everything from the design of the packaging all the way through to the interface on, if it's a product, on the interface, to the graphics, all the way to the instructions, all the way through to the maybe app like I just talked about. So you are not just giving off things to people. You can be involved throughout, is what they're kind of talking about there. And of course, sketch. They talk about how it's much easier to come up with ideas. If you read this part right there, here you go. This little scroll bar is a little touchy there. I know we all hate to sketch and we're afraid of a pen and paper sometimes, but they talk about in this reading how you can quickly come up with ideas much faster with sketching. Photoshop's hard and takes time. Computer's horrible. Coming up with, and we'll do much more hand-done things in this class than we will in other classes that we've had. So if you can read that, that was first week's reading. Then second week's reading, we don't have to go over right now, but you can look at it a little bit here. And so read this if you can this week, and we'll talk about it next class. Okay. Then also this week, I want you to, again, we're going to do the Photoshop. I know it says poster, but I'm going to kind of do my lecture more towards this, okay? Maybe more towards this design. You can watch the videos. I've done this for 2 years now, so there's some previous videos of me going over tools. You can watch those, or we can do a new one today that you will see the new one today. Also this week, you should do a discussion about what it's like to be a designer. Some of you might have seen this video already. I've shown it in other classes, but this one is about my friend in Washington, D.C. His company's called 3Spot, and he talks about what it's like to be a designer today. So if you watch this and then read some of the comments I put down there and comment on that. And then this weekend, I did a lot of research into game design this weekend because I was interested in the game interface. And I remember back in the days I used to make games. I used to teach students how to make games back in the 90s. And it was so much fun because the interface elements could be generic and all kinds of different. I remember one game we made was a car interface that when you rolled the mouse around the car, the front of the car would point towards it like this. You know, and you could make such fascinating game interfaces because game, you're not limited to what's on the app, right? You can change it to be almost anything. And so I was doing some research into games, and so this was a resume of a game designer. I thought it was interesting to look at what he has posted on his portfolio page and what he would include in his kind of, if people are going to hire him, what are they looking for? So you should look into that so you can see what kind of, even though it's a game design, I think any kind of interface designer to follow kind of how he, so if you got time to read that, I would say it's good. And then watch this video if you have time of the award-winning apps from Apple. I watched it. I even downloaded some of the apps that were from the video, especially the talking one. It translates into multiple languages. So you can say something and it'll say it in Chinese, say something in English, it'll say it in Spanish, and the words will print out. Great for traveling. So if you watch this video, it'll show you all the award-winning apps from 2018 Apple Developers Conference. And to see the award-winning apps and why they were award-winning and to listen to how people describe the app, I think it's pretty good. So if you got time, watch that video too as well. A lot to do, huh? Okay, last thing for reading today would be the material design, Salesforce design system, human interface design. No, we're not going to go through all of this right now. I'm just pointing out these are systems, and I want to talk a little bit about today, before we even get into our Photoshop demo, just about systems. So design guidelines and templates are a way for the companies or the hardware people, we'll call them hardware people because Apple is a hardware company. They make a phone that's hardware. But you're going to make an app for that hardware, you should follow their guidelines. In fact, they'll reject your app if it doesn't follow some of their guidelines. Their font and so on. We talked about the font. What was the font for Apple? Scott, was the app for Android? Or the font for Android? Roboto. Okay, we'll never forget that again, right? We can remember that. Okay, so let's quickly look through these, and then you can do some research on your own, and later on we're going to go into detail, not today, but in detail on how to make objects, either vector objects or bitmap objects, to be the proper size. There's rules and regulations for that. We'll go into detail into that because that's important. But for right now, I love material design. There's a lot of great videos on it. As you can see, the material design was put out by Android. The material design is more of what they call a flat design, is the way they describe it, in that it's more shapes with colors, and it goes into detail as well as the shadow that goes behind the object here. As you can see an object on the screen, like a school, well, there wasn't on the screen there. But some of these objects you'll see how will have shadows. How far away is the shadow from that object, and so on. What color schemes? There's a color scheme that you can follow, and they have rules. What size font do I use, right, for a headline title? And so if you read that, it's really good to get an understanding of how material design works. There's great videos that you can watch.
What if it was possible to design and build better, so your ideas could scale from a single sheet to a system? With material, you can apply color dynamically so that every touch enhances the character of your design. Typography is adaptable, so you can express more by customizing for style and legibility. Craft an experience that's responsive across device and platform. Streamline collaboration with tools and open source code, making it easy to express your brand's unique identity, balancing form and function down to every last detail. Material design isn't a single style. It's an adaptable design system, inspired by paper and ink and engineered.
So I'll link up the historical where they came up with the idea for material design, because that's a good historical how they came up with the sort of the way that they built it. So I'll show you that a little bit later. Again, I was looking at this was Salesforce. Was this the Salesforce one? Yeah. Their system is called Lightning Design System. Um, it's kind of a blueprint on how to build apps for the Salesforce there. In addition, they have sketch templates that you can download. Remember last week I showed you how to download, there was an Apple one from the Apple website. So you can download UI objects that are already made. They talk about motion and animation and how to do that. So this is the Lightning Design. The thing I think I told you last week too is that a lot of it is in just CSS and so on. So it's very interesting how they do it. Again, you could even see the hexadecimal values. So if you don't know what these are referred to as hexadecimal values. And it just has the way to do how the numbers are counted, right? You got 1 bit or a bit, which is 2 hexadecimal values, where it uses numbers and letters as well. So again, the Salesforce is very oriented towards CSS and plain HTML as I was looking through it and looking at it. So if you got time to look at that, it might be something that you do. Hey, they got a giant new building in San Francisco. Hey, maybe they'll hire you, right? That's a new tower, right? Salesforce Tower? Okay. I don't know. Have ambition. So that was Salesforce Design System. And then, of course, mostly in this class, we'll talk mostly Apple because that's sort of what I do more is Apple. So again, the Apple is developer.apple.com, and then of course they have design and human interface design guidelines. Their guidelines are for all of their products. Again, you can do the desktop, right? The desktop would be the Mac OS. So if I'm making an app for the desktop, I can follow the Mac OS. iOS is more for tablet and phone. Then of course they have the watch, the Apple Watch, and then of course they have Apple TV. They may have an Apple TV. I know one person I think that has an Apple TV that I know. So, hey, they're gonna keep pushing it probably until. Again, they have a variety of different ways of connecting your interface to the technology. How they do that is by building an infrastructure in the background. Those infrastructures might be a iCloud where you're connecting to a data, right? So how do I connect to the data? They give you those resources. In Google, they call it an API, right? It's a way of connecting to their kind of background. HealthKit is very important to Apple today. If you watch the video, they talk a lot about HealthKit if you're going to build a health app and how you can take advantage of the pre-made health features that Apple provides inside the phone or inside the app. GameKit and the Metal, all those, they have this thing called Metal, which allows you to bring 3D objects into the interface of building an app, and that's sort of how, if you look at some of the game examples, there's like 3D interface, how that is done. And of course they have Care Kit, I'm not sure what that is, HomeKit or some of these, and Wallet would be their paying, right? So they have, and then they have augmented reality and so on. So they have a whole bunch of built-in technologies that you could take advantage of as well. If you click on one of them, it'll take you to the interface guidelines, and as you go through, you can see all the different systems, the visual design guidelines, the colors that they talk about that you could be using. They use a little bit more solid colors than I would say I know that the material design uses solid colors, but they use a lot of tints. Tints would be, variations of the color in Android, and Apple tends to use white or black kind of backgrounds with solid colors in general if you looked at your phone. Again, the typography, they talk about San Francisco. The reason why they want you to use San Francisco is because it's a dynamic font that they made, so it'll change size according to the device, right? My iPhone X, would have different font size than my iPhone 8, than my iPhone 7, than iPhone 6, and this will scale according to. Same with the Roboto. Then they have rules and regulations for your icons. And again, we will talk about how to do the proper size. And there's our bitmap, as you can see there, and so on. Apple icons. I think last year we learned how to make our own icons. We'll go through how to make our own icons again, and so on. So they have all the different sizes right here, as you can see. What are the sizes? So you're going to have to learn some of those. Then they have navigational bars, what to include up here, and so on. Search bar, status bar, and so you can go through all of that as well. So that, again, is something that you really need to learn and go through. There's a lot to it, and you can watch some videos and download resources, and we can do that a little bit later as we go through in detail how to do ones for specific. The first 2-3 weeks we're going to be very general, how to use the tools and so on, but once we get to specifics, it's going to be important that you do things the right size and so on. So you should look into that, following those. And then the last one was the Airbnb. I thought was interesting, their design guide. It's called Airbnb.design is their website, and they kind of, you can read about it and look at, and they have videos as well, and people talking about the Airbnb and then projects that they've done. But I thought it was interesting, just their whole design philosophy and guidelines for Airbnb. They're a very successful company, and you know, they're growing and changing the way we travel, right? Who stays in Airbnb? Some of us. There you go. I don't know. So I'm not going to go into detail. I just listed them here, but these are the ones that we should be looking at as we go along. Let's get to the demo today. Again, I want to do some Photoshop today. I'm just going to talk in general, basic Photoshop stuff. If you want to follow along with the demo, I'm going to download the surf picture. The surf picture is located under Photoshop Practice, Santa Cruz Poster. If you want to download the surf picture that I have here, it's located under here. And you'll see it says original small right here, original smaller PSD. To download a PSD off of the computers here, probably the easiest way is to right click on it. So if I right click on it, it save link as, and it'll ask me where do I want to save it, and I'm going to put it on the desktop for now. Again, these are some older videos. I'm going to do a little bit different demo today than what you see here, but you can watch these and learn from them as well. Again, this version I'm going to download is going to be, again, you can right click, save link as. Of course, I'm inside of Firefox browser. If you're inside of Chrome or Safari, it might say something else, but somewhere there should be a way to save the link, and I just saved it and put it on my desktop. Okay? Some of the things I'll be talking with, again, will be layers mostly, blending modes, fill options, which would be objects that I put in there, typography, and of course I wrote fill and stroke on the board already, right? For my objects, they're going to have color in them. Fill will be the color in my object, stroke will be the line that goes around the outside. The other most important thing today for interface design things is how to scale them, so that you can put them, and how to copy and paste from one object to another object. Because when you download the templates, of course, it's going to give you an example with a whole bunch of stuff. You need to be able to copy them from there and put them into your design. So that will be the important things today of how to scale things. And you're not going to remember all the steps. I know it takes time. It's practice. You're just going to have to practice. And you don't know how many times I've had to show my wife how to do the scaling of an object she was working on. She has a website that she has. She wanted to put something on there. She, I showed you how to do that. I said to her, oh, she doesn't remember. I will show her again. Scaling objects, putting text on, takes time and practice. So don't get frustrated. Okay, so to open that up in Photoshop, I'm going to minimize my browser. You don't have to quit it. To minimize a program in the Mac platform, if you go to the very top up here, you'll notice in Firefox it says hide Firefox right there. Did you see that? So you can have multiple programs open at the same time. So if I go under, let's say, a program up here and say hide Firefox, it just means it's hidden. It's still running in the background. It's still in RAM. For those of us who know our RAM. Next, I'm going to open up that picture inside of Photoshop. Now, you could either open up Photoshop first and then say File, Open, but that's a lot of work having to do that. If you downloaded it and have it on your desktop right there, an easy, quick way to open it in Photoshop, again, is to right-click on it, and you can go to where it says Open With, and you can say Photoshop. Or most likely, since this knows what a PSD is on this computer, if you double-click on that photo, it'll actually open it probably in Photoshop as well. In this case, if you right-click though, I tend to right-click on objects. That way I can choose which program that I have it open with. And again, I'm going to open it in Photoshop. And it opens it in Photoshop. Okay, so this is just a typical picture that was done inside of a digital camera. And I want to make it into some kind of maybe app interface example like this. So the first thing I'm going to say to myself is, well, what size is it? Of course, the photo was probably taken with a camera that didn't do it at the same size that I want it, right? I want it to be maybe on a tablet size. Let's go with an iPad size, right? So how do I measure and know what this size of this current picture is? Well, a very important feature inside of Photoshop is the image size option. To get to the image size option, it's under Image size right there. And what does that tell me? Well, if I go under image size, it'll tell me the dimensions. Now, you'll notice the dimensions are in inches. That doesn't tell me much. Why doesn't it tell me much? Well, paper might be inches, but screens are not inches. Screens are measured in pixels. So, you'll notice, remember our little dot up here for a bitmap image? It's called a pixel. So we need to know what this is in pixels and not necessarily in inches. So I can come over here and change it where it says inches to pixels, and it'll tell me, okay, this is 2,736 by 1,824 pixels. What is that? Well, that's how many dots go across widthwise, and how many dots go up or square. And then the resolution is how many squares per inch, per square inch. And so all of these kind of factor into the quality of the image. So the first thing we want to say to ourselves is, well, we want to do an iPad. We want to make an interface example for an iPad. So I'm going to download and start with an iPad screen. Then I'm going to change the size of this to fit kind of the iPad screen, at least widthwise. And then I'm going to copy it and paste it into that. So the steps would be, let me open up the template. I think I showed you how to open the template last class. So let's cancel this for now. We kind of get an idea of what size it is. Remember, 2736, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start with an iPad template. To start with an iPad template, I go underneath File, New. And in File, New, remember up here I kind of went over these last class, how you got photo, you have print, you have art and illustration, you have web, you have mobile. Mobile. There we go. Under the mobile option, you'll notice that these are the pre-made sizes for Microsoft Surface Pro, iPad Pro. So let's choose one. What do we want? Do we want the iPad Pro or Retina? Who has a Pro? Who has a Retina? I have both actually myself. Let's go with the Retina. How about that? So notice this is 72 ppi. ppi stands pixels per inch. Do you remember the example that we were just looking at 150? So there's a little bit difference there, right? So we need to think about that as well as the dimensions here. Look at the difference. Okay, so think about that as well. So I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to hit create. Don't worry about background color and stuff. So again, we now have a white blank document that is the appropriate size for an iPad Retina. The Retina is just a smaller, they might call it iPad Mini, I think it's called. The Pro is the bigger one, so it's just a little bit different. It's kind of squarish, but it's all right. So again, how do I get the photo that I have in here and scale it down to fit? Now if you go over to that, and I can resize it in the image size to fit this. That's one way of doing it. Another way would be to copy it, paste it here, and then scale it down. When I use the word scale, every object inside of Photoshop has these little squares that go around that allow you to make it smaller and bigger, smaller and bigger. So to do things quickly, I'm going to do it that way. That would be easier, faster way. So I do this pretty much every day. I scale things in Photoshop every day. Mostly they're products, stud finder products. They're boring. This is fun scaling nice photos. So here we go. Again, you'll notice I have two files open in Photoshop. One is a photo. The other is a artboard. So to copy and paste, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go over to my object here, and we're going to use keyboard commands. If you don't want to use keyboard commands, you can use the menu. I remember when I was first starting in Photoshop and Illustrator, I had to use the menu because I couldn't remember how to copy and paste things. Again, to do that, I want to select this object. To select the object is either Command A on the keyboard, or you can go over here where it says Select. See it there? See where it says Select? And I could say select all. Do you see that right there? So I'm going to select this entire object, or this entire bitmap. I'm going to copy. If you want to use the menu item again, you could use the keyboard Command C, or I can use the menu item copy right there. See that? Copy. So again, select all, and then edit copy. Then I'm going to go back to my untitled document here. Make sure the move tool is selected, this one right here, this move tool. Then I'm going to go back to my blank one here, and I'm going to paste. To either paste in there, I go under edit, paste, again, or hit the Command V on the keyboard. Paste. Okay, now again, I have this move tool, which is this one right here at the very top. If you have the move tool selected, which is the very top object, you'll notice you have little squares that go around the outside of my object. Do you see that? Those little squares then allow you to scale the object down, or this picture down. So you can, I'm going to scale this down to about half the size of what it is right now. To scale this object down half the size, I'm going to put my cursor along the edge. You'll notice as I move my cursor around the edge of this object, again, I'm using the move tool, which is the one at the very upper left corner here. As I put my cursor around the edge, you'll notice that the cursor changes to different icons. One of the icons I want to use is the one that kind of goes in a diagonal direction. Do you see that? Not this one. This one's rotate. See, rotate. I don't want to do that. If you make a mistake, hit escape on the keyboard. Goes back to normal. Remember, the escape key is like the magic fixing key. So again, if you accidentally do this and you're like, ah, I didn't want to do that. Hit escape on the keyboard. Ooh, goes back. Hey, it's nice to have. Okay, to scale, again, I'm going to put my cursor in the upper corner here, and you'll notice it turns into an arrow that points in horizontal, or no, perpendicular. What direction is that? Like this. Whatever. If I hold the left mouse down and start dragging, it'll start making it smaller. One of the problems you run into when making things smaller, though, is that it's not keeping in the ratio. If you want to scale in the ratio, you're going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and it will scale in a ratio. I'm holding Shift key and scaling, and see that? It's scaling in the ratio. And I can move it around if I want. And you don't have to do the same thing. You can just do that. I'm going to not use the whole thing. Maybe kind of like maybe something like that. I'm not going to use the whole picture. I'm just going to make it so it kind of fills up the screen. Maybe should we go all the way to the top? Maybe we could. Maybe cheat a little bit, scale it up to the top. I'm going to fill the whole screen. Let's fill the whole screen. When you're done doing the screen kind of thing or whatever you want to do to this, To stop it, you always go back to the move tool and just click on it. Right here. If you just click on it, it's going to say, hey, do you want to apply the scaling? The transformation is what you just did, scale and that, and then you hit apply. So notice the other thing that you might see in the upper right corner is something called the layers window. And we have one layer. That layer is the photo. The photo's all the way in the back. So whenever we build things inside of programs, and if I can get my marker here. So the window probably you're going to want to have open most of the time in Photoshop will be the layer window. And let me redraw this. Let me redraw this. So right now we have a picture with some surfers. There's some surfers and stick people. There they are. Surfers, right? Surfers. So in my layers window, I have one layer so far. It's going to be, it's called background probably, since it's a layer one. And it's a picture. But as we build things, we will have multiple objects. So I'm going to have, it'll probably start going, it'll be layer one. Layer one. We can change the name, we'll call it photo. We can change the name of the photo if you want. Then we will put a tint, which will be a box with a color over top of it. Then we're going to go and make a bar across the top for an interface, so the bar. So the tint will be a color, because we don't want to use that color. It's just black and white and ugly. If you look at this, this is like nice, beautiful colors, right? So we're going to add a color. It's going to be a separate layer. That's the word tint is as color, basically. So we're going to add a color. And if you think about it, material design actually gives you the numbers that you can put in for the colors if you follow their like scheme. But for today, we're just going to use a random color. So the color will be this thing called a tint, which is over top of the picture. It gives it color. Then we're going to have a bar that goes across the top, like a menu, or maybe it's information bar, right? Then we can make a bar along the bottom, and we can add some icons. We're going to make this right now. Okay? Maybe not exactly like that, but a little bit close. Okay, so let's make a color. If I don't want to mess with this, yes? Did you download it off the internet? The picture is located, again, in Firefox. I'm on Canvas.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so like I don't have the class in my Canvas yet.
When did you enroll?
I enrolled already, but it's not uploaded to my Canvas.
Oh. If you, yeah, it usually takes 24 hours.
Okay.
If you just enrolled, yeah, it takes a while. It's all right. I mean, I don't know. Just make a color, solid color, or download a picture off the internet. Where can I find a picture off the internet? I don't know. Go file, new tab, go to Google, and Google. There we go. Santa Cruz images. Santa Cruz. There we go. I don't know, any one of these pictures. Hey, this one would be pretty good. Look at that. To get this into Photoshop quickly from the internet, I can copy and paste. So if you ever need a picture off the internet, easiest way is find a picture, like we just found the picture, right-click on it, say copy image. See that? Right-click on it, copy image. Go over to Photoshop. Go edit, paste. Boom, scale it that way. So again, you can copy right from the internet and paste if you want to steal. on the transform tools. There was just an option. I'm sorry, I failed to mention that. You can scale it bigger now. Yes? I'm coming. Did you find one? Just go and copy and paste from the internet. Okay, yeah. You need to change the little box up here. Now you have that. Yeah. You can just click on it to move it. Okay, if you're having problems scaling, I know I failed to mention the little option at the top. So again, if you're having problems scaling, and I know I failed to mention, I try to remember everything. If you look right here, if you're using the move tool, which I pretty much use this is the main tool that I use in the program. There's a little option right here. It says show transform controls. See it? It's right here. So if you can't see the transform controls, it's this one up here. I'm so sorry I failed to mention that. Okay, so everybody got one picture? Got one picture? So again, to keep it so I don't mess with this, I don't want to move it and change it or do anything with it, I'm going to lock it. To lock it, if you notice, if you do not see layers window, you can always bring up the layers window, and I'm going to close this property window by going under window, layers, window, layers. It's under window. And it's called layers right here. See how it says layers right here? I'm going to drag it out if I want to move it around too. I kind of tend to keep the layers kind of floating around because this is the one I use mostly. So if you don't see layers, and to move it around, you'll notice how I click my left mouse on top of the bar. See how I'm moving it around, moving it around. All the programs kind of work like that. Sketch works like that. Illustrator works like that. You can move the bars around. If you don't see layers, again, window, layers, window, layers. It'll come up. Okay, next I'm going to, I don't want to move. I want to lock it. So I'm going to click on that layer. Notice how I click off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on. If you click on this layer, which is called layer 1, we can change the name. I can double click on the words that say layer 1 and I can call it photo, like that. Again, how do I change the name? I click on the word twice and I can change the name right here, twice. On, off, double click. So get used to that. If you click on it, you'll notice there's also a lock right here. See the lock? I'm going to lock it so that I don't mess with that layer anymore. It's set. I'm going to leave it there. It's my background. Manipulate your layers. Make sure you know how to lock it. Lock. Okay. Lock. So I lock it so I don't mess with it. You don't want to make a mistake. Okay. Where's the picture at? Command A, Command C, Command C, and go back to Command B. You just copy and place. Command A, Command C, Command B. There you go. Now to scale it, you hit the transform tools. Now you can scale it and move it around. Okay. So let's put our color in there. You want a nice purple color? You want a nice purple color? Okay, let's make a nice purple or whatever I don't know color you want. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to make a box, basically a colored box, or I call it a tint. And then we're going to apply a mode to it, a blending mode, which blends that color to the background. Okay, we call it blending. So a lot of times we use things called opacity to change the transparency. Transparency would be transparent, would be totally you can see through, right? Opaque means it's totally solid. So the term opacity means I can change the way that I can see through to something else. Another way to see through to something else would also be called the blending mode. The blending mode actually works a little better because it takes into consideration colors that are underneath it to blend it together. So watch how I do that and then try. You can make it any way that you want to make it look the colors you want. So here's the steps to making a tint of color. Again, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. If you don't see the rectangle tool, it should be over here somewhere. I don't know. It depends on the version of Photoshop we got here. What version of the Photoshop do we have? Where is my rectangle tool? Oh, really? I don't have a rectangle tool? No. What is this? Sharpen tool? It's useless. What is this? Path?
I think it's the dotted circle on the top right.
No. I don't want that. I want my shapes. What version are we using here? What version of Photoshop? Path? No, not path. It's shapes. Oh, they have a pop-up menu now. Oh my lord. Okay, sorry. Trying to. Oh, now my tools went away. Hold on. Tools. Where's my tools? Now how do I bring my tools back? Okay, since they have so many tools now, I guess we have to use a pop-up menu. So again, I'm going to bring up my layers window. So I have layers. There's some layers. There's my layers window. I want to put a rectangle with a color over top of this. To put a rectangle with a color, I'm going to go to where these dots are. Do you see these three little dots? The little dots right here? You might not have them because you have a bigger screen than I do. My screen is small because I have the projector, right? The projector makes my screen different than yours. But if you don't see all the tools, the tool I want, oh jeez, I saw it earlier. Didn't I get some options under there? Oh, really? Oh. You saw me, there was a pop-up menu there. Somehow. No? Whatever. Oh, really? I have to edit my toolbar. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a long skinny bar by clicking up here. What does yours look like? You have the rectangle tool. I just don't have it on my screen. You have it on yours. Right? You have a rectangle. Okay, I just don't have it. Oh, now I have one. Okay. I swear it wasn't there earlier. I swear. Okay, this is the tool I want. This one right here. Okay, before I draw my rectangle, I'm going to choose a color. To choose a color is up here. See where it says fill. Remember I said objects have a fill and a stroke. Stroke will be a line around the outside. Fill will be there. So again, this one right here, it's called a rectangle tool. I'm going to choose a nice purple color. If you click on there, it'll give you color options, color swatches. You can choose a color swatch. I'm going to get a nice purple color there. Whoosh, that'll look good. Then I'm going to put my cursor in the upper left corner. When I draw an object inside of the computer, I usually start from the upper left and go to the lower right. You can go either way you want. But I'm going to put my cursor in the upper left corner, and I'm going to hold the mouse down, and I'm going to drag. And it's going to make a rectangle. Now, I don't see my picture underneath. That's okay. We're going to remember. I told her we're going to blend it to it. Notice in the layer window, it made a rectangle. And it's even called rectangle. And so this is a vector object. Remember I put vector on the screen. So now I want to blend it with the picture underneath it. The blending modes are located in the layers window right here. So if I go to the layers window right here, you'll notice it says normal right here, normal. But I don't want normal. I want to blend it. I'm going to go to where it says screen. That's a nice one. And that gives me a kind of a look like that. See how the look is right there? How I did that again was I have the purple or whatever color rectangle you have here, and you'll notice in the top of the layer window there's options here. These are called blending modes right here. Try lighten, screen, darken. Ooh, that looks good. Color burn. Ooh, look at that one. Vivid light. No, that's not very good. Hard light, soft light. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Screen is always a pretty good one. If it's too much for you, you can turn it down. Remember I talked about opacity. Opacity is right here. 100% opacity means the rectangle is totally opaque. Oh, but I see underneath it. Ah, because I have a blending mode. But if you turn down some of the opacity, you'll see that it'll also manipulate it the color-wise as well. So again, we have a screen. It's size of an iPad. It has an image. Then it has a rectangle to add a tint to it. Okay, very common to do in interfaces. To not use a picture too much. If you're going to use a picture, especially for a background like this. This is a background, right? You don't want to just photo back there. Photos tend to be very complicated and difficult to understand. So if you put something over top of it, it tends to, you know, make it hard. So let's finish. So doesn't matter, whatever kind of background blur you want. Remember, change the opacity if you want. Try opacity if you want. Okay, let's make a bar at the bottom. Did you get? Did you scale it, or is that the size you wanted? Okay, always have the layer window open. You have to go into window layers. Window layers. Okay, so right now you have one layer. You can move this out by putting your cursor over the word layer and dragging out. You can make the layer window bigger by putting your cursor. There you go. Scaling it bigger so you can see more. Okay, so then I locked it so I didn't mess with it by hitting the lock. There. And then I went and I made a rectangle using the rectangle here. Just gonna hold that down. Do a square on the first one at the top. Make a mistake, you can hit Command Z to undo. Click off that first, not in Command Z. And draw a color over top of it, and then the blending mode. That one right there. Okay, let's put a bar at the bottom, and then some text, and it'll look beautiful. Okay, so bar at the bottom with some icons. There are already some icons built into Photoshop as well. And so let's put the bar at the bottom because we started using a rectangle. Let's put another rectangle on top. If you want to not mess with this color here, again, the easiest way is to lock it. Again, the lock is this one right here. Boom. I'm going to lock the rectangle too because I don't want to mess with that either. Okay. So let's put a bar along the bottom for our tabbed menu. This is called the tabbed menu, right? In Xcode, remember tabbed menu down there, right? Was it tab? Or was it tab? Yeah, tab bar, right? So again, I'm going to make another rectangle. You don't need this crazy color. Maybe my tabbed. Oh, I guess I can't change it until I make the rectangle first. Let me make a rectangle first. I'm just going to not worry about size at this point, but there is a specific size for that tab bar. And then let's change the color to something that will work. Maybe gray. There we go. Maybe a gray. So we have a tab menu at the bottom now. And I can lock that as well if I want. Then I'm going to put some icons in there. There's icons already made in Photoshop. to put an icon in there in Photoshop, they're under the shape feature in Photoshop. So if you put your cursor over top of the rectangle tool right here, and hold the mouse down, you'll notice there's at the very bottom something called custom shapes. I'm holding my left mouse down over top of the rectangle tool, and I'm going to where it says custom shape tool. Do you see that? Custom shape tool. So again, I'm holding the mouse down over top of here and going to custom shape tool. Once you have the custom shape tool, you'll notice the shapes are up here in the options all the way at the very top up here. And there's some pre-made shapes in there, so I'm going to hold my mouse down. You'll see I got some ones, and you can download a whole bunch of other ones. The common ones for, you know, apps, you can download those. I just didn't download. These are the pre-made ones in Photoshop. But you'll notice there is a whole bunch of other ones. There's animals, arrows, artistic textures, banners and awards, film, frames, grime, vector pack, light bulbs, music, nature. Where am I getting this pull-down menu right here? Well, again, let me start from the beginning. I'm using custom shapes over here. After I chose custom shapes in the toolbar, I went all the way up here to where it said shape over here in the top bar up there. And if I hold my mouse down there, you'll notice it gives me some custom shapes. In those custom shapes, there's a whole bunch of shapes already built into Photoshop. If I come over here, there's also a little icon. It looks like a wheel that's up here in the upper right corner here. It looks kind of like a wheel there. If I hold the mouse down, you'll see there's a whole bunch of other shapes. And like I just told you, you can download pre-made icons from Apple, and you can have them in this list as well. We'll do that later, but for right now, we could just add some, I don't know what kind of shapes you want. How about moons? I just did shape. I don't know, any one of these. How you use these is you can either double click on them or you can drag them out, I believe. No, maybe double click on them. No, that didn't work. How about we choose one and draw a box? How about that? There we go. I just drew a box. And if you want to change the color, again, if the color is this one, here we go. How about a blue moon? There, I got a blue moon. Okay, I'll do that again. Again, custom shape is this one right here. Over here is shapes up here in the upper corner. And I can choose different shapes. I just chose these ones. We could do a star if you want. I click on the star and I can draw a star. You want to change the color, it's this option up here. And I thought I was using a blue, this blue, or purple. Okay, let me do another one. Again, custom shape is this one, custom shape is this one, custom shape is here. There's different options under here as well. And talk bubbles. No, I don't want talk bubble. How about web? What is that? Oh, here's the search feature right there. So maybe that one will be a good one. There we go. Search one. Let's try another one. How about the shopping cart? There's a shopping cart. There we go. Now let's do one more. How about a sound one? There we go. Sound one. And then I'm going to move this one all the way to the edge. There we go. Okay, so if you move things and so on, you can use this to there. So I have some specific icons. Again, where did I find them? Under shapes. They're all beautiful. The problem we have is they're not all nice and even, are they? They're not even, are they? So just like in Photoshop, inside of Illustrator, inside of Sketch, there is alignment features. Those alignment features allow you to align objects as well as evenly distribute them. to evenly distribute these icons, you'll notice I have multiple shapes. Each shape has its own layer. See that? This one's shape 1. Look, there's an eyeball. You can see it. See the eyeball right here? I can poke it, poke it, poke it, poke it. So these eyeballs over here in the layer window that allows you to show and hide the object in a layer. So I'm going to select all these shapes here inside the layer. To select multiple items inside of a program, you can use the Shift key on the keyboard. So I'm going to select all these shapes by holding the Shift key down. Once I have them all selected like this, I can then align them to other objects as well as what we call distribute them. Distribute means it will evenly space them. So again, I held the Shift key down to select multiple objects in the layer window. Once I selected multiple objects in the layer window, you'll notice at the very top up here, again, I have the Move tool selected. You'll notice I have these features. These are alignment here, these features, and these are distribute. So if I want to make sure they're all aligned to the middle, I can click on this one. Make sure they're all aligned to the middle. This is middle align. Then if I want them evenly spaced across the bottom of my bar, I go over to this one right here. This one will be distribute evenly. Watch the icons. When I click this right here, watch the icons. Boom, they're nice and even all the way across. Again, Photoshop has this, Illustrator has that, Sketch does that. It's a great way of using features to help you align things properly. Again, I selected all the objects inside of the layer window. I'm using the Move tool. I went to align them in the center, evenly distribute them across. Now they look beautiful, right? Okay. So I have all my shapes. You might want to lock those as well. You can select them all and you can lock them as well as you want.
How did you get that align menu?
I'm using the Move tool and I'm selecting. You need to select multiple objects. I'm holding the Shift key down. And then you have these options here. So once you select multiple objects, it should show. It doesn't show now because I locked them. If I unlock them, look, this is evenly distribute. This is align horizontally. Of course, you got align vertically and so on. So again, I'm going to lock those. Okay, last thing I'm going to put into my example here will be a text. To put text on the screen, we have the text tool. The text tool is this one right here. It has a big T. T for Texas, right here. T for Tennessee, right there, T. Before you type the text, you can change the font and size up here if you want. It's right here is font. Of course, we're going to use San Francisco, so I can go down to where it says San Francisco, if I can find it in my font list. Or we can use Roboto, I think is on here. Where's San Francisco? No. Do we see San Francisco on here? I know it's installed somewhere. Just the list is too long here. Can we type in San Francisco? How about we type it in? San. No. Sans is giving me Sans. San Fran. Nope. I thought it was. Didn't I install it last time?
I think SF.
Oh, it's SF? There you go. Thank you. SF. And let's do Pro Display Bold. That sounds good. So SF Pro Display Bold. So again, I have the T tool for text, SF Display Bold, and then if I click on the screen, I can type in Santa, and then I can hit return and put in Cruz, C-R-U-Z. If I don't like the color of the font, just like in Microsoft Word or any word processing program, I can highlight the text by holding my mouse down, and you'll notice the color is over here. I'm going to go with a plain, nice white text, and then if it doesn't show up, maybe we can use black. Again, just like a word processor, I can use the text tool, and I can draw across the text and so on. If you make a mistake, I'm using the text tool and I don't click at the very end. I click here and it starts making a new box and you're like, ah! What key on the keyboard should I click? Escape, right? Remember escape? Or if that doesn't work, you can use Command Z or undo. Edit, undo is the first option there. So if you make some mistakes, like it starts doing this on you, it's going to do that. You're going to run into problems like that. What is this box? I don't like this box. What's going on? Hit escape. Okay, so you have your first kind of screen with some text, a colored background, and some ugly icons. It's not quite as beautiful, but at least it's a start. So all these programs work very similar. Sketch, you do the same thing. The alignment features in there. Color, you can do color tints just like that in Sketch. I can do color tints in Illustrator as well. All these things that I just did here, I can actually do in Illustrator as well. I can do, and they're very similar, maybe a little bit different step. But, you know, this is a very quick way to come up with ideas. Now, of course, you know, using the computer is probably not the first step. I would plan a little bit. But I want to give you some skills that you can start building from in Photoshop. These are skills that you can use in interface design as well as in any kind of design. Yes?
I have a problem about the icons that I
Hold on, let me pause my record. Photoshop since '92. So I know I make it look easy sometimes, but I'm trying to tell you all the steps. So I try to give you, and you can watch the video again. So let's say you want to change the color. I don't like the purple color of my icons. Okay, though they're shapes. And so if I make sure you use the move tool all the time, this is the tool I constantly always go back to, because if you have one of these crazy tools selected and you click on the screen, sometimes it does something. So usually when you're done using, let's say, the text tool, right? Go back to the move tool just for habit. Okay? So I got the move tool. I'm going to come over and click on a shape. And let's say I wanted to change the color. And you're saying, well, which one? I didn't label them. Wouldn't it be nice if I gave them a name? This would be like moon. I think this one's the moon. How do I know if it's the moon? I don't know if that's the moon. How about you turn the eyeball on and off? See that? Hey, that one's the moon. It is the eyeball. See, eyeball on and off. It tells me which one it is. This is a star. And then this one is probably the glass. This one's probably the cart. And this one's probably the sound. Okay, so I can name them. That helps. Again, eyeball on and off, eyeball on and off. But I want to change the color. I don't like that color. Now, right now I can't change the color because it's locked. I would need to unlock them. Okay. Then to change the color, since it's a shape, it gets, you know, this program gets a little confused. So I can click on the moon. And I want to bring up the properties window, but the properties window does not look and does not allow me to change the color. And the reason why is because I clicked on the actual icon, or clicked on the layer. See, I clicked on moon. But watch what happens if, again, the window I'm using is called properties. If you don't see any of these pop-up windows that I'm using, they're all underneath window. Properties, window, properties, brings up the properties, window, properties. Okay, so here we go. I have the moon selected here, but that's not doing me any good. I can't change the color here. So what I have to do is actually click on the shape on the screen over here. Once I click on the shape on the screen, it should, no, it still didn't get me. Hold on. Hit escape. I gotta hit escape. How about if I zoom in? That'll help maybe. What am I zooming? Command plus. Zooms in, command minus, zooms out. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Command plus, command minus. If I zoom in and I want to get a hand, I use the space bar. If I hit the space bar, watch the cursor. Turns to a hand. I can hold my left mouse down and drag. Look at that. Dragging, dragging. Okay, so I don't know why I cannot manipulate the color here. Double click the thumbnail on the layer. This one? Oh, there you go. Thank you, Jennifer. Double click the thumbnail on the layer. It gives you the color. How about we choose a new color? Okay, let's try again. What did you say? Double click here?
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Oh, let's suck up that color. There's an eyedropper too. Double click here. Eyedropper, suck up the color. Remember, spacebar gives you a hand. Double click. Eyedropper. Okay. Double click. Eyedropper. Okay. Now they're all the same. So again, practice your zooming. Command plus, Command minus, Command plus, Command minus. If you're zoomed in, hold the spacebar down, use your left mouse and move around. I do that every day. Let's save it. We're almost out of time. Gene will be here in like 3 minutes probably. So let's save. To save this, I'm going to save as a Photoshop file. To save as a Photoshop file, I go underneath File, Save As, File, Save As. And let's give this a name. Let's call it, this is my Santa Cruz app. And then let's put it on the desktop. And there you go. So now, the reason why we save it as a Photoshop file is so that we can manipulate it and bring it back. But the problem is I couldn't take this Photoshop file and put it in my app. And I can't take this and put it on my web page because it's a PSD. To put it on your web page and put it in your app, what format's on the board? Well, they were on the board. We're over here. Hide the screen. Was this one? PNG, right? JPEG. Those are the ones that are deliverables. These are deliverable formats. The PSD is a working file that I use to have the layers. So I always save multiple things, right? One for this, and if I was going to put this on a website, I would save it as PNG or JPEG. Where do I save those different formats? If I wanted to save this as a JPEG and send it to my mother and say, look what I made in school today, Mom. Right? You want to go and send this to your mother so she knows that you're doing something in school, right? You can send it to her phone by going under File, Save As, and in the Save As option, you'll notice down here in the format, there's all the different formats. JPEG is for JPEG, and of course PNG is for PNG right there. Do you see these formats? Again, under the Save As, under Format right here, you can see all the different formats. So if I save it as a PNG right there, and just hit OK, let's not worry about the messages, I can then send that. I'm going to quit Photoshop now. I'm going to quit my browser as well. Well, let me stop my recording.